Western leaders are giving Israel carte blanche to commit war crimes, as are much of the press. One journalist who isn't, though, is Mark Lamont Hill. On Al Jazeera, he challenged former Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon.
The Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, said that he was deeply distressed by Israel's announcement of a siege on the Gaza Strip. He said that the humanitarian situation, quote, will only deteriorate exponentially, and that crucial life-saving supplies, including fuel, food, and water, must be allowed into Gaza. So the UN is saying you must do this. You are saying you're not going to do this. How do you?
No, we're not saying that.
He's saying do it. He's saying doing it immediately. What I'm saying is what you're doing.
No.
He's saying doing it immediately.
I got you. I'll tell you exactly what we're saying. I'm saying we will do everything for the Gazan people. Once and now, we demand immediate surrender, unconditional surrender of Hamas. If Hamas people come out with their hands up and clear their weapons, believe me, everything will be restored to Gaza. It is Hamas in Hamas hands.
Now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. I think we're actually on the same page here. You're saying that once Hamas leaves, you'll grant the Gazan people food, shelter, fuel, electricity, hospitals, schooling. And if they don't, and if Hamas doesn't leave, then they'll continue to starve and die in hospitals. You are defining for the international community right now collective punishment. You're saying until Hamas acts differently, the 2 million people in Gaza are going to be treated this way. And once Hamas acts differently, these 2 million people in Gaza will be treated better. That is exactly what collective punishment is. You're holding them accountable for the actions of others. That is the definition, the textbook definition of collective punishment, sir. Now, you may accept that that's what you want to do, but this is absolutely a contravention of international law.
Such a good interview. And I suppose, the reason I think that was so powerful is because he's not just speaking to he is speaking to some extremist Israeli politician. Obviously, he was in the government, so he's the mainstream of Israeli politics. But he's not just speaking to, someone who is alien to us in the UK, because we've been seeing all of our governments, all of our politicians, our government, tweeting that anything that happens in Gaza is Hamas's fault, which is essentially what that Israeli politician was saying there, right? Oh, yes, we are going to do a siege. We are going to bomb them, but they could stop it all if they released the hostages. Now, that is collective punishment, but that's what James Cleverly, that's what Keir Starmer was saying for quite a while. Also, by the way, it is worth noting, Hamas have said they will release the hostages if Israel stops bombarding them and they release some of their prisoners who are held without trial. So they essentially are hostages as well, to be honest. Let's look at how Ayalon responded.
No, had we pushed them to the wall, we're not pushing them to the wall. We want to open a humanitarian corridor so they can leave. But if Hamas...
So that who can leave? Citizens? You're saying civilians can leave, but only through the Rafah border, correct?
At this point, yes.
So they can't come...
Where else?
Your country! They can come into Israel!
I'm telling you one more thing I want to say.
I want you to address that point. Don't just smile, sir, respectfully. You're saying you're making a corridor. They can go to Egypt. You're bombing them. You say you want to save them, but they can't come in.
First of all, I'm not smiling. I'm crying in my heart. I'm crying in my heart for all the butchery of thousands of Israelis. Why do you think the world is with us? Why do you think the world is wise? All the international media was there. So don't talk to me about collective punishment. Don't talk to me about humanitarian. These are new rules of the game.
Well, the world isn't with Israel, right? The West is with Israel, or at least the governments of the West are with Israel. And much of the global South is with Palestine because they recognize that this is a colonizer with an occupied people, right? So this idea the world is with Israel is just factually untrue. Some very powerful countries are with Israel, but the world is not. Barnaby, I'm pretty sure Mark Lamont Hill got fired from CNN, didn't he, for saying, something along the lines of "for the river to the sea." It's good to see he's got a job where he can still be pretty powerful and persuasive in a host's chair.
Yeah, Mark Lamont Hill was fired from a mainstream American media organization for using a sentence which he clarified many times was a call for freedom, peace, and democracy for everybody. And that tells you just about all you need to know about the Zionist state, Israel, and about its international supporters. The most basic liberal demand, one person, one vote, is death to the Israeli state. It is an ethno-state, which doesn't even recognize an Israeli nationality on people's ID cards. They're Jewish or Arab. It is a state constructed on the basis of having a Jewish demographic majority. And that's why they can't do what would seem like the obvious thing, which is say, if we want to carpet bomb your homes, pretty criminal, and we're telling you that we want you to get out of those homes, and we've penned you into an open-air prison, we'll open the cage door and let you come into the fields that surround you in southern Israel. They won't do that because that would mean non-Jews arriving into a state that they want to retain as ethnically Jewish majority. It couldn't be more racist. It is racist to its core. And so every Western politician who gives us lectures about their commitment to principles of diversity, who kneels, for God's sake, kneels to say that Black Lives Matter, and then funnels billions of dollars to support a state that is premised on one ethnic group owning and controlling land that they got by chasing another ethnic group from it. No Western politician should ever be taken seriously when they talk about democracy and human rights and basic human equality while they're doing that. It's not very surprising. How do you think the USA came to exist? How do you think Canada and Australia and New Zealand and South Africa and all these states came to exist? Of course, it was through settler colonial ethnic cleansing. But that's the basis of this thing they call Western civilization. So when they walk around the world and lecture other people about human rights and Western civilization, that's what it is. It's that kind of violent domination. And Israelis, settler colonists are always kind of a bit more honest. They're at the frontier against the savages as they see it. And they see people in places like Britain as softies who don't have to fight against the savages and just depend. We're not drowning people in the Mediterranean. We depend on European frontier states to do that for us. So they think we're living comfortable lives that depend on their violence. But they're open and honest about the kind of violent domination that sustains this thing called Western civilization. And that's what Israel is.
Navarra is only possible because of the support of our regular supporters. We do really, really appreciate these super chats, but Google does take a cut. And for us to be able to plan long-term into the future, it is great to have you signed up for monthly donations. We are in the middle of a fundraiser. So if you do want to donate, do go to navarramedia.com/support.